Welcome everyone to this Let's Play of Kerbal Space Program Better Than Ever. Now it's been a few days since our exciting and very successful mission to the Mun. So it's unfortunately back to the daily grind for us to do some commercial missions because we need to upgrade some of our buildings. So let's pop over to Gene and see what contracts we have in store. As usual, Gene has been very busy with the various businesses that are running on Kerbin that want to have a slice of our space pie. Now this is a contract that Gene has been particularly interested in. It involves us testing the Mark II cockpit while orbiting Kerbin. We simply have to run the suite of tests whilst orbiting Kerbin between 83,900 meters and 99,900 meters, so quite a wide range. We'll be given an advance of just under 40,000 funds, but we are going to receive an enormous completion bonus. That will pay for almost all of our immediate needs. But notice these figures in brackets. These are the results of our strategy. So we're losing a little bit of science and gaining a little bit of funds. But it's not actually that much. So I'm wondering whether changing to a different strategy that would help with our reputation, that would simply boost the overall value of our contracts, might not be worthwhile. But we'll come back to that. So let's accept this contract and head on over to the VAB to build our vehicle. Now the Mark II cockpit has been highlighted here because it's not one of the parts we have ourselves researched. It is on loan to us. So let's click that part. Now it's a bit unwieldy, this part, to use this early in the program. However, we can still test it. We can use it as a rocket capsule. It's a two-man rocket capsule effectively. We don't have the necessary jet engines to create an SSTO, so we are going to have to build it as a rocket. Now if you remember, we had a £40,000 advance, a 40,000 fund advance I should say. So let's keep an eye on this figure to see how much we can maximise out of our profit. Now first things first, let's build the basic structure. So we'll need a separator to separate our cockpit on return, and then we will build a relatively simple asparagus launch stage. Now we'll use, I think, an LVT-45 engine for this section. We'll get some radial decouplers to build our asparagus stage. We'll have two decouplers, so let's get our fuel tanks to go on there. Did I pick it up? No, there we go. Then we need our fuel pipes, our fuel ducts, and they need to fuel the center stage outside in, like so. And finally we'll get our launch engines, our slightly more powerful launch engines, our LVT-30s. Now just to strengthen this a little, let us put a couple of struts on here. There we go, so that'll hold those in place on ascent. Now I'm sure this nose here is going to prove a little bit difficult to steer, which is why we've got our LVT-45 in here. So let's move this out of the way. Let's get ourselves some winglets. We haven't been using our winglets very often, but let's get our winglets and place those on the central stage just to give us a little bit more steering, a little bit more maneuverability. We'll get launch stability enhancers just to hold us on the platform. So that's all looking good. Now we need some of our essential parts. We need our Kerbal engineering system just to give us an idea of how we're doing. Oh, we don't need two of them. So let's just reduce symmetry, put that on there. And then we'll need some parachutes. Now I want this to come base down, so we'll put the parachutes on the top. So let's get one parachute on the nose, like so. One just behind the cockpit, like so. And then one here at the back of the cockpit. So that should give us 3 parachutes, should be plenty enough to give us a soft landing. Right, so that's all looking good. Now while we're in space, we're going to need some photovoltaic panels. So let's get a pair of those, one on each side, and that'll just make sure the capsule, actually let's just move them slightly, get them symmetrically in position. Don't want to block Jeb's exit, wouldn't want to do that now, would we? So let's move that down just a little bit. There we go. Doesn't really block the entrance. So that'll give us some way of recharging our batteries in the event we're stuck in orbit for any period of time. Now if we check our staging, it's not looking too good, so let's bring those down, bring those down. So we have our main LVT 45, our 2 LVT 30s. We have our launch stability enhancers, so they will all fire in the same stage. Then when our outer stage is finished, the radial decouplers will fire, and this main stage then will take us into and out of orbit, hopefully. And on the way back, as we near the ground, we will jettison the now dud stage and fire our 3 individual parachutes. So 20,544 funds, so we are almost 50% under budget, and that's just on the advance, let alone the 200,000 we are going to get for completing this mission. We are going to complete this mission. So we've got plenty of Delta V to get us into orbit and to make orbit and then to return. So I think it's about time we sorted out this mission. I'll see you on the launch pad. So here we are on the launch pad. Bill is assisting Jeb in this 2-man mission. So let's get the throttle up. Let's get the SAS on and launch. Now if we get our contract out, we have to be on Kerbin or around Kerbin, which we are. We need to be in orbit, which we are not. And we need to be over 83. So if we go for about 90 kilometers, 87, 88 to 90 kilometers, that would be well within our altitude range. So otherwise this will be a perfectly average and normal launch, except for the fact I am expecting this to be a little bit difficult and awkward to control. The cockpit may well be aerodynamic for an aeroplane, but not for a rocket. So I'm expecting this to be a little awkward. Now let's just throttle back because we are well ahead of terminal velocity. We don't want to waste too much fuel. There go our outer tanks. Let's now throttle up the central engine and begin to turn. Now there you can see it's going off center already, beginning to twist in the wind. So let's control as best possible our attitude. Bill, I don't think, is enjoying the flight quite as much as Jeb. But you're in good hands, Bill. Don't worry, you are in good hands. So there we go. We are more or less turned over now. A little bit turned. Let's just rotate a little. There we go. Now, being in a equatorial orbit is not a requirement, so that slight deviation won't prove a problem. There we go. We're at almost 24 kilometer predicted apoapsis, so we're doing very well. We've got over half our fuel left, gaining speed very well. So this is what we've got to watch for. We've got to watch for this getting over about 84 kilometers, so nigh on 90 kilometers should be perfect. Having got over the trauma of separation, I think Bill is doing much better. So I hope he is watching the test instruments. So we're at 45 kilometre apoapsis. About a third of our fuel remaining. Okay, 57 kilometres. Getting ready to shut down the engine, I should say, when we get to nigh on 90. Here we go. There we are. So 87 kilometres, that's going to be well within our range. So let's get ready to circularize. We still don't have manoeuvre nodes, so that's why we are doing this mission. So we can get our manoeuvre nodes. You can see how non-equatorial this was, but again, it doesn't actually matter. So we are going to need to thrust towards the horizon, say 40 seconds before apoapsis. So it's about a minute's time. So let's just accelerate time. Time up 2. And there we go. We have made space, as the music announces. And time to apoapsis is dropping rapidly. So 20 odd seconds. 10 seconds. And let's cut. Warp. And fire away. Now we don't want our apoapsis to grow, so we need to fire just ahead of our prograde, just down a little, so you can see we're staying roughly at the same orbital altitude, just turning off there a little bit, and there we go, 96 and 80. So as long as we stay in this little section here, we are perfect for testing our contract. So let's get Bill to run the tests on the equipment. So right click the cockpit and run test. There we go. Successful set of tests done. Thank you very much, guys. So I think it is now time for us to return. Now it would be nice if we could return as near to the space center as possible. So what we need to do is to fire retrograde when we're roughly here. That will bring us down here, and the nice red dot reminds us where the remote tech antenna is, as does the launch debris. So yeah, somewhere over here. So let's just advance time until we get to about here. Obviously Kerbin is rotating, so we need to take that into account. There we go, so somewhere around about here. Now we've over-rotated our preparation to fire retrograde, so let's just move back a little. There we go, just on the horizon. So let's just lock retrograde. Now if we use the map, now it would be tempting to reduce our periapsis right down, but of course we're going to get some drag. So let's just reduce it. So we are down in the atmosphere, maybe 20 or so kilometers. I think we should land somewhere in this range. There it is coming down. So there we go. So we'll land somewhere here, which is relatively close, and it means we will maximize our return value. Now we are actually jettisoning most of the craft, but it's good practice. Good practice to see where we need to put our periapsis and exactly what value. So there we go, almost 21 kilometers. So let's return to our vehicle and watch our descent. Now, as usual, we need to make sure we have sent a suitable postcard back to Gene for his office wall. So that one of the Mun, a bit misleading. Looks like we're going to the Mun. We're actually coming back from. Well, I say we're coming back from it. That's misleading as well. So let's just accelerate time until we return into the atmosphere. So there we go, back into the atmosphere. Let's again get postcard for Gene's wall, and then if we use physical time warp, you'll notice that the lock to prograde has a funny effect. So let's just switch on default stability assist. Now all that's really going to do is stop us tumbling, and that's really all we need to do at this point. So let's just bring ourselves back onto retrograde and let air resistance do its thing. I think both the guys are very pleased to be going home. So we're at 53 kilometers. So let's just go and have a look at the map and see how we're doing. Now it looks like our periapsis is pushing ahead of us as if we're going to land somewhere in the ocean. So maybe we needed to come down a little bit more shallow, and maybe a little bit more over this side. So we'll learn that for next time. But I suspect as we get deeper it will start pulling back. So maybe we overdid it indeed. We maybe should have started over here with our periapsis, maybe over this peninsula. But we learn something new every day. Now wind resistance and the fins have turned us around. Not a problem at all. I don't think. So we're at 25 kilometers. We've still got 4 times warp speed. Oh look, there's Minmus. Another misleading figure. You know, I've not seen how the IVA looks in this craft. So nice effects there. So as we now come into 8,000, I think it's about time we pop the chutes as the stage disappears past us. That was rather lucky. Oh dear, maybe we should have planned that a little better, but at least we are safe. At least separation occurred safely. As that stage now disappears uselessly into the distance. So let's turn stability assist off and just let the parachutes right the capsule. So let's just have a quick look. So we did land quite a long way away. So I suggest next time, as we were saying, we need the periapsis to be over here. So as we come back, as air resistance brings us back, we land somewhere here. So lesson learnt. Parachutes have just opened. That was the noise you heard. So we're at 450 meters. Bill is definitely pleased to get back. So let's just accelerate time down these last few 100 meters. 300. Down to 200. 150. Here we go for splashdown. Got 40 meters. Can't really see any shadow. There we go. Gentle touchdown, and we'll send the boat out to recover the vessel. I'll see you back at KSC. Well, there's not much to see in the recovery report. We didn't earn any science. We didn't actually return that much equipment, just the actual cockpit itself, although we did recover 4,000 funds, so we only actually wasted about 1,500 funds, which is not that much considering how much we were given as an advance. Most importantly, we have recovered the crew, and Bill has gained 2 XP. Good for him. No reputation as part of the mission itself, but we still now have a hefty sum of additional reputation because of our contract. And this was the contract: to test the Mark II cockpit orbiting Kerbin, 225,000 funds, 451 reputation, and a little bit of science. So we now have 443,000 funds, and that is enough to upgrade the tracking station, which will give us patched conics. So let's upgrade that. And also upgrade mission control, which will enable maneuver nodes, and that's only 48,000 funds. So we're around about the same amount of funds, but we have now upgraded both of these facilities. So I think that one mission worked really well. Well, with that in mind, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.